So this example is a kind of a hybrid orchestral electronic track. I'll just play a couple of clips. It just progresses then towards the end. Like it just rises and rises until you have this kind of orchestral kind of crescendo at the end. So actually in this track there's only two reverbs. It's kind of very old school. One shortish, about less than 1 second, 0.8 second, and the other is just 1 second. So it's kind of like a emulation of what you would have in an actual orchestral recording space. They only have the hall itself, which has probably a 2 second, 2.5 second kind of characteristic, basically. So if we look at some of the individual parts here and what they're assigned, all these little stabs and so on, you can see this is coming through the very short verb. So most of that sound is actually from the delay that's on it. Look at another example, cello. Now this is being fed to both, and so sometimes you do this, that the main part of the reverb on a sound is from one, and then because you want it to blend with the other elements in a mix, you might feed it also the instrument into another reverb. So in a way, like with a band, you want it to sound that the band is in the same room. So you might have one individual reverb on an instrument as a characteristic for that instrument, but then you might feed a little bit of that instrument into a general room verb that all the instruments are going into, so that it sounds like they're all in the same space, basically. So that's what I have here. Take this both off. So just with the short one, and then just the long one. So it's kind of some of the instruments have a bit more of the short, and some of them have a bit more of the long, but a lot of them have both. So this kind of puts all of it into the kind of the same space. And then the horns also have both. So, and also you have to be careful, because if you're adding two reverbs, then you have to back off a little bit each one, because it's going to contribute. If you just solo it and add as much reverb on one as is appropriate in the mix, and then you start adding another reverb, well, you're going to add too much reverb. So it has to be balanced in some way. Try another bit, the violins. These are quite back in the... this is just the first one. So it just puts them a little bit back in the mix. What else? Pizzicato. So you can hear there, it adds quite, it puts it in a very definite space. All of them off. So it's quite important with the orchestral sounds that they have a suitable reverb to put them into kind of a realistic acoustic space, because otherwise it is very dry. If you're actually in a real orchestral hall when it's being recorded, it has, like I said, about a 2.5 second reverb. You're going to be surprised at how bright and how much reverb there actually is in an orchestral recording hall. If you're used to synthesizers and recording in studios, in dry instruments and so on, it'll be actually quite surprising if you walk around and listen to that kind of acoustic space. So, and then the cello. Both of them. The horns. And without. Again, yeah, it's just that's less than 1 second even. But it's enough. It's less than 1 second, but it's enough to put it in an actual acoustic space. And the trick with this track was to actually not have too much reverb and have it swamp, because there is this electronic bass. Now on the sub bass, there is actually a little bit of reverb. I was going to say there's no reverb, but there is. So without it. Yeah, it's very, very minimal just to put it in some kind of space. But the point is that I couldn't go overboard with the reverb on the orchestral instruments, because to keep it dry enough that it can move forward quickly without getting completely swamped in reverb. So they're not super long, 1 second and less than 1 second is quite short really, but it was enough to put them in an acoustic space. That's that bubbling kind of 303. Again, there's actually no reverb on that at all. So that's an example with pretty old school, just 2 reverbs.